Good evening, everyone. I am Councillor Laura Binks, Mayor of Strathbogie Shire Council, and I would like to welcome you to this extraordinary meeting of Tuesday, 27th of June 2023. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Today we're meeting on the lands of the Taungurung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose sovereignty here has never been ceded. This public meeting is being streamed live via our website and made available for public access on our website, along with official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you may share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses these recordings or minutes. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in Section 9(2) of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are numbered 1 to 9 on page 2 of the agenda. We welcome people to our public gallery and also those viewing this meeting through our live stream via our website. This meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules. If we have technical difficulties during today's meeting, which means we are unable to stream the proceedings to the public, we will continue with the meeting given that the public gallery is open. Voting by councillors at tonight's meeting will be held by a show of hands. If a councillor or an officer has a conflict of interest in a matter, they'll be asked to leave the meeting, and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure that they have done so. The person will then be contacted to rejoin the meeting after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. CEO Solomon, do we have any apologies for this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, we have 2 apologies for this evening's meeting. We have one from Councillor Christy Horrigan and also one from Vlad Adamek, the Director of Sustainable Infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors and officers, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest to be made under Rule 94 of our Governance Rules, Division 2 of the Local Government Act 2020? I have one to make. So in regard to item 7.5.1, I am declaring a material conflict of interest. We'll now move to page 5 of the agenda. Item 7.2.1, consideration of Ngambia and Euroa Caravan Park line items in the 2023 to 2024 Strathbogie Shire Council budget. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. In accordance with Council's requirements under the Local Government Act, Council has prepared and exhibited a budget for the financial year ending the 30th of June 2024. This report specifically relates to the income and expense items within the draft budget that relate to the caravan parks in both Ngambia and Euroa. A lease for the Euroa Caravan Park was transferred to the current leasee, Lily Ann Proprietary Limited, by Council resolution in February 2017. Councillor Hourigan is a director of this company and has declared on her March 2023 personal interest declaration form a conflict. As Councillor Hourigan has a material interest in these budget items, it has been necessary to separate this line item in the budget so that Councillor Hourigan can participate in the broader budget consideration without breaching the conflict of interest provisions under the Local Government Act. This report seeks approval for the inclusion of the related line items in the 23-24 budget for $93,000 in income, $31,200 in operating expenses and $62,400 on capital works, with these projects to be confirmed. There is a recommendation for Council's consideration on page 6 of the agenda. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer on this item? Councillor Dickinson.
Just on point 1 of the recommendation, the expenses of 93,600, which include 31.2 in operating expenses, 62 for capital works, do they relate just to the Euroa Caravan Park?
Through you, Mayor Binks, yes, they do.
So I'm just wondering why Nagambie is mentioned there.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Binks, it may be because they are packaged up as one, or separately to that, it may be that Councillor Hourigan has also declared a conflict of interest in relation to that matter. I'm unsure, but I'm happy to take that on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Are there any further questions or clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion that's listed as the recommendation on page 6 of our agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
No, other than to just say that I think the performance of the Euroa Caravan Park in particular has been pretty outstanding, and I think that it's an asset to the Shire and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, would any other councillor like to speak to the item? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 11 of the agenda, item 7.2.2, pitch my project recommendations for funding. Executive Manager Favalora, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. So now in its third year, our Pitch My Project initiatives make sure that the projects and plans that matter to our community are included in our budget. As the initiative has progressed over the years, it's now in its third year, we've made lots of changes and improvements. So this year we extended the pitch period again to 3 months, and we created clear guidelines so we could assess the projects, and then we created a participatory budgeting exercise to give the community really genuine input into the projects that are recommended for funding. So Council allocated $300,000 for Pitch My Project as part of its draft budget, and it allowed there to be $50,000 for each area in our 6 strategic focus areas within the council plan. So we received pitches in 5 of the 6 strategic focus areas, and no pitches were received in protect, enhance, adapt. So after all of this assessment period, 11 projects were placed out for the community to prioritise. And I really encourage people to read the engagement report that's attached, because it shows all of the information on how those votes, I suppose, came in. We received 572 community contributions. 425 of those were online, and 147 were through survey stations. So we set up hard copy surveys in all of our townships. So the projects scoring the highest in each category and recommended for funding are the Strathbogie Memorial Hall stage upgrade, the Longwood Nature Play Space, the Euroa Branding Project, the Greytown Community Centre Shade Sale, the Longwood Football and Netball Club shelters and seating, and the Euroa Memorial Oval septic tank decommissioning. Councillors, tonight I need to correct a point in the recommendation in front of you tonight, and for it to read as follows. So dot point 1 will remain as printed. In dot point 2, I need to correct 2F to read $20,000 for the Euroa Memorial Oval septic tank decommissioning. That was the amount they asked for in their pitch and their submission, and dot point 3 remains as printed. So I've spoken to the Committee of Management today, and they've understood that they will, if this is endorsed, they will receive the $20,000 that they applied for. So this also makes there a further $30,000 in funding available, and it leaves a total of $80,000 unallocated in the Pitch My Project funding. So there is a recommendation on page 12 of tonight's agenda, noting my correction as I read it.
Thank you, Executive Manager Favalora. Can I just ask for a point of clarification? Dot point 1, should that read allocate 220,000?
No, you are correct.
Okay.
Yes, you are correct.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just wanted to make sure. Yep.
Yeah.
So we're adjusting. You're asking that we adjust allocate. So dot point 1 allocate 220,000, and then dot point 2 F it's 20,000 to the Euroa Memorial Oval Septic Tank decommissioning.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Councillors, are there any further questions or clarification of the officer regarding this item? Yes, Councillor Murray.
So can I just can you clarify for me the weighting that was redistributed from the participatory process or in the engagement process that people sort of took part in?
Yeah, I can. So what the Share Strathbogie or the engagement platform does is it creates a score on all of the projects. So it looks at how many times it was prioritised first, how many times it was prioritised second, how many times it was prioritised third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And so it creates an overall score based on where it sat in everyone's priorities rather than just the ones that got the most votes.
Thank you for that clarification, Executive Manager. Are there any further questions of clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Haysberg.
Can I please move the motion as printed in the agenda with the amendments made by Executive Manager Favalora?
Certainly, Councillor Haysberg. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Haysberg?
Yes.
You need to put your microphone on.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. I'd really firstly like to thank the community for their participation in this one. Firstly, for submitting their projects and then following through with voting on their preferred ones. I know some of these projects even have a co-contribution element from the community, and that demonstrates the community's passion and support for making this Shire a better place. And often they're volunteers, and so we really appreciate that. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed. They're all really worthy projects, and that's why we had to leave it in the hands of the community to pick their preferred projects. We did our very best to make sure that voting was done fairly, and where possible, for smaller communities, we calculated the votes by percentage of population, and that's clear in the engagement report. If you've got any questions about sort of the fairness, I guess, over the Shire, given that we have some smaller communities and some larger ones. But having the community's input really gives, and putting our faith in the community gives me the confidence to make this decision tonight. I think we learned a lot from this process, and I hope that we can maintain this this sort of pot of money and commit it to community projects in the future. Through the last few years, we've really refined this process, and I believe that it's delivering great outcomes for the community. I don't think there's many other councils, well, that I know of, the Mayor might know, that allow the community to have this type of input into the budget, and I'm proud to be part of an organisation that's giving it a good hot go. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haysberg. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo some of the comments that Councillor Haysberg has alluded to. I'd have to, sort of remind people that this is the third year, I think, that we've done the Pitch My Project scheme, and we've adjusted it sort of each time to try and refine the project, the Pitch My Project scheme, and how it's delivered. It's a participatory decision-making process. There were 572 contributions that we've heard about. So I would like to start off by thanking the community efforts in making their contributions and their submissions for the Pitch My Project in particular. We did have to adjust the scores to take into account the relative sort of sizes of some of our communities. So we do have some small communities which we did have to adjust for because obviously they're not going to have the same number of votes as some of our larger communities. So we believe that these 6 projects that we have supported here are reflective of the needs of the community across the Shire and are worthy of councillor consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I shall put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 19, item 7.2.3, adoption of budget, fees and charges and declaration of rates and charges for the 12 months ending 30 June 2024. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. As per Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, council is required to officially approve the budget and fees and charges by June 30 and inform the community about the budget's adoption. At the 2nd of May 2023 extraordinary meeting, council resolved to release the draft budget 23-24 and also the fees and charges for public review and comment for a period of 28 days in line with council's legislative requirements. Throughout the public exhibition period, a total of 15 submissions were received. All submitters had the opportunity to make a verbal presentation at an extraordinary meeting of council on the 6th of June 2023, and we had 5 parties that elected to take up that opportunity. A summary of the submissions with a response can be seen commencing on page 28 of the agenda to each of those submissions. Throughout the budget submission period, minor modifications to the draft budget were identified to respond to newly acquired information, technical adjustments and shifts in assumptions. A table summarising these can be found on page 20 of the agenda. There were no submissions received relating to the draft fees and charges documents, and minor changes have been made at an officer level regarding those fees and charges document. I also too need to alert councillors that there is administrative error in the budget due to the Pitch My Project carry forward. Mayor, I'd like to correct recommendation .1 to read as follows. Having completed the community engagement process prescribed by Council's community engagement policy, adopt the budget, fees and charges for the year ending 30th of June 2024, subject to the $80,000 unallocated from the Pitch My Project initiative will be used to cover unexpected expenses made in the minor adjustments that have been made to the document released for public review and comment. Thank you, Mayor Binks. The recommendation commences on page 21.
Thank you, Director Tingay, for that summary, and I've noted that amendment to .1 being that there's an $80,000 unallocated as per the previous item that we dealt with. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there a seconder for the motion, councillors? Councillors, I know that there's some amendments, so I'm going to second the motion as I can do so from the chair. So seconded by me. Councillor Dickinson? Well, yes, Councillor Murray.
I would like to move an amendment to the motion as moved.
Okay. Would you like to state your amendment, Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment to item 7.2.3, the adoption of budget, fees and charges, and I'd like to make an amendment to the recommendation points 1 through to 7 to remain as printed other than the amendment that's made, that's noted by yourself.
Yes.
On pages 21, 22, 23, 24 and 25 of tonight's agenda, and add the additional .8 to read as follows: that Council, number 8, note the importance of the VicTrack car park precinct area and its intersections at Saleyard Road and Bank Street, Avenel, as a priority for the Avenel community, and include an advocacy priority in the 2023-24 Council Plan actions as follows. A, to clarify land arrangements with VicTrack for the car park precinct, including a funding commitment to upgrade this area, and B, to work collaboratively with the Department of Transport and Planning to address the community's safety concerns in a coordinated manner. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder for Councillor Murray's amendment? Councillor Rayburn? Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. So councillors will now debate this amendment. So the substantive motion that was moved by Councillor Dickinson and second by myself is still sits there, but we need to debate this amendment, which is moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the amendment only, reminding you that you're just speaking to the amendment, not to the full motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I would. I'd like to speak to the amendment by starting off by saying that one of the important jobs of our council is to meet the needs of our community, and I think one of the vital needs of our community in Avenel is the need of safety and movement within the Avenel commercial precinct down there. And I think this particular amendment addresses some of the concerns that the community has about their safe movement down in Avenel by talking about the need for some advocacy to develop some programs and funding and to network with various other landholders down in that area to come to some sort of arrangement about how we might facilitate the safe movement of both pedestrians and vehicles and cyclists in this particular area. Some of our needs, the needs down there that need to be met are economic sustainability, the development, security and lifestyle in that particular area. And I think this particular amendment enables us to meet some of those needs of that community down there and to enable the vital movement and safe movement of people from the crossing down there through to the commercial areas of Harvest Home, Bank Street Pizzas, the butcher down there, for example, and it allows people to move in a safe way and to look at how we might enable that to happen through that area. I think the other benefit of this particular motion is that it preserves the financial buffer that we have got in our budget at the moment of $80,000 for some of the contingencies that may arise. And I don't particularly want to talk about those at the moment, other than to say that my amendment preserves that amount of money for some of the considerable demands that are going to be made in the future on our budget, such as our concerns about a number of bridges, our concerns about a number of buildings within our communities that we need to be mindful of. So I would recommend this particular amendment to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I support Councillor Murray's comments, and the reason why I second this is because trying to work with VicTrack, VicRoads and other government instrumentalities and agencies and also development going on around Avenel at the moment, we'd be better off trying to work out exactly what's happening around that area before we allocate any funds. And that's the reason. I think it's great advocacy. I think it's a very good way of us as a council going forward for the future, showing our community what we're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any councillor like to speak for or against the amendment? Any other councillor? You don't? No? If that's the case, councillors, I'm going to put I'm putting the amendment to the vote. So we're just voting on Councillor Murray's amendment, which is around advocating for that crossing at Avenel, which we are familiar with and was a pitch in our in the budget submissions that we had. So this is, as Councillor Murray has stated, it's retaining that $80,000 to the bottom line for contingency in the budget, but committing to some very proactive advocacy in what he has proposed. In that, did you want Councillor Murray to read out the amendment again, just so everyone is clear on it before we vote on it? Would you mind doing that, Councillor Murray? I think that could be good.
No, I don't mind, Mayor. So it would be making an additional point 8 to read as follows. Note the importance of the VicTrack car park precinct area and the intersection at Saleyard Road and Bank Street, Avenel, as a priority for the Avenel community, and include an advocacy priority in the 2023-24 council plan actions as follows. A, to clarify land arrangements with VicTrack for the car park precinct, including a funding commitment to upgrade this area, and B, work collaboratively with the Department of Transport and Planning to address the community's safety concerns in a coordinated manner.
Thank you for that, repeating that, Councillor Murray. I appreciate it. So, councillors, we'll now put that amendment to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour of the amendment? Okay, and against, and that is carried. So that now becomes our part of the substantive motion. So we have the motion with the amendment from the officer around the $80,000 being the amount in in dot point 1, plus now this addition of dot point 8 as per Councillor Murray's amendment. Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Mayor, may I please propose another amendment?
You can.
So dot point 9 potentially.
Councillor Hayes-Burke. So Councillor Hayes-Burke, I'm just recording this. Would you like to state?
I'll just state the
your amendment, please.
Having completed the community engagement process prescribed by Council's community engagement policy, adopted budget fees and charges for the year ending 30 June 2024, and to allocate the 80,000 residual Pitch My Project budget allocation of 40,000 towards construction drawings for the upgrade of female change room facilities at the netball precinct at Euroa Memorial Oval, and the remaining 40,000 for detailed costed plans for the Euroa Friendlies Reserve upgrade project, ensuring both projects continue to be progressed.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. And I'll just clarify by looking at our recommendation and what the substantive motion is. Your amendment is actually amending dot point 1 rather than an additional, than an additional dot point. Otherwise, we have repetition.
Yeah, that's right.
So, are you comfortable with that?
Right.
Yeah. So you're amending dot point 1. Okay. Is there a seconder for the amendment? I'll second the amendment for purposes of debate. Okay. So, Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to put this amendment up tonight in relation to supporting Friendly's Committee of Management and the Memorial Oval Committee of Management to help them to prepare construction drawings for new facilities to bring these community assets basically in line with the current day, to be inclusive of gender diversity, just even to be inclusive of females, which they currently aren't, and inclusive of people with disabilities. Council has been responsible for these groups to get to this point, with master plans being drawn and developed. They are now completed, but the next steps involve having construction drawings undertaken so that these groups are in a position that they can apply for funding. So it essentially gets these projects to be shovel ready. And And I think that the impact of this $80,000 being given to put into these facilities would have a large benefit to a large proportion of people in the Shire. There are hundreds of people that visit these facilities each week. There are multiple user groups with each facility, and there's a diverse range of ages that visit and utilise these facilities. So I think that the money will have a far-reaching effect within the Shire. That's my motion. That's my amendment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Would any other councillor like to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor Murray?
Can I just ask a question? Can you reread the amendment, please?
Certainly. I'll ask the councillor to read the amendment, as I don't have it in front of me. Can you put on your microphone?
Sorry about that. Having completed the community engagement process, which was in line with the budget, I would like to allocate the residual money, which was $80,000, to $40,000 towards construction drawings for the upgrade of the female change room facilities at the netball precinct at Euroa Memorial Oval, and the remaining $40,000 to detailed costed plans for Euroa Friendly Reserve upgrade project, ensuring that both projects can be progressed.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Would you like to...
just an additional question. Is that an additional dot point that you were reading out, or is that an amendment to dot point 1 in the recommendation?
That's right. It's an amendment to dot point 1 that I'm proposing.
I'll speak against the motion.
You can speak against the motion, Councillor Murray.
So I'm really concerned about that because we went through a community engagement policy, and we've got a community engagement policy which we've talked about and so on. That I think we went out to the community. We talked to them, got their input. We got some votes. A whole number of those, 572 of them. Some of them, most of them online, but some of them not. We adjusted those scores and we came up with a list of things to do and to support. And I'm concerned that we are allocating money to a group that has a need, obviously, and there's a concern. There's a need to obviously sort of look at change rooms and female participation in sport, and I'm not denying that at all. But it is not possible for us to meet all the needs of across our community at any one time. My argument really is that need there ought to, whilst we can't meet it this time, we might have to look at it in the future in terms of maybe other income streams that would enable to facilitate that need. So I'm concerned about allocating that extra $80,000 that we've come up with tonight to that particular area. There are many needs that we have foreseeable, not only in bridges, not to name Kerwin's Bridge, Shineman's Bridge, for example, and maybe others, and also with buildings that we have a need to make some allowance for, whether it's the building here or whether it's our library over in the Gambie, which I think is a real concern for making sure that we provide some services over there, which at the moment are unallocated in the budget because they were so recent, the problems over there. So I'm really concerned about using this money in this particular way. And I would argue that we ought to keep that money aside. We have some recognisable contingencies that are going to occur in the not too distant future, and then we need to make sure we've got a capacity to meet those needs, which are, in my view, are more important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? No, Councillor Haysbert, would you like your right to reply?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to note, Councillor Murray, submissions to the budget, they're still a legitimate form of engagement. And so I think these community groups have every right to make a submission to the budget. I see this as an opportunity for council to progress projects that it's started and it's assisted these groups with, and I would like to see those continue. And if I'm not successful now, it's something that I will follow up at the mid-year budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. We will now. I will now put the amendment to the vote. So, councillors, we're now voting on Councillor Hayes-Burke's amendment, which relates to an allocation of $40,000 to the Friendlies Oval to progress some detailed design drawings, and an allocation of $40,000 to the Royal Memorial Oval to progress their female-friendly change rooms. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And I declare that lost.
For the division.
You can. In favour? And against? So Councillor Hayes-Burke in favour, against Councillor Rayburn, Councillor Dickinson, Councillor Murray and Councillor Binks. Thank you. Sorry, making notes here. Okay, so we now have Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have an amendment.
Okay, so we're up to Amendment 3.
Amendment 3.
I need a new page.
7.2.3.1. As Councillor Hayes-Burke has stated in her motion or her amendment, that was part of having completed the community engagement process for the year budget for 30 of June 2024 to allocate. I'm not using the 80,000. Sorry, I'm only using the 50.
Okay.
50 to residual pitch my project budget to be given to the Southern Aurora Memorial Gardens to complete the project of building the platform to allow access to the carriage.
Okay. And can I clarify then that the additional 30,000 would be used to cover unexpected expenses in the minor adjustments that have been made in the documents released for public review and comment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 50,000 to Southern Aurora and 30,000 to the bottom line. Okay, thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder for Councillor Rayburn's amendment? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, the Southern Aurora Memorial Garden has become a real tourist attraction for the Strathbogie Shire and especially Violetown. Early this year, they won the memorial memorabilia street art for their murals, and we've been getting them a lot of people coming back from who worked in the rail industry, who families were involved in the accident back in 1969, February the 7th. And a lot of those people who have been coming back to Violetown are bringing back memorabilia, which they want to put into the carriage for the museum. And to be able to access the carriage is you need to build a platform to be able to have access to all. And this will finalise any funds to access the carriage. And I believe the community will be able to upgrade the carriage for the museum. And once it's completed, it'll be a great asset for our Shire and our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor Rayburn said all that needs to be said.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any councillor like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak against this motion. I think it's important. There are, as I said, I mean, I've spoken to about this previously with the other amendment, but I think there are some some severe contingencies that that as a Shire we need to be aware of and to be cognizant of, and to leave the amount that we have of $80,000 to cover some of those issues that are appearing, which is namely the Nagambie Library and sort of coping with the issue over there, with the subsidence of the building there and the need to perhaps adjust what we do over there to deliver that sort of service in that community, which I think is vital for the Nagambie community, a library service. So I'd like to make sure that we have an amount there for that. I'd also like to ensure that we have an amount left aside to meet some of the needs of the demands of our restitution and handling of Chinaman's Bridge and the Kerwin's Bridge issue over there, so that we have some ability to adjust our actions in that particular area. So I would rather see that money remain as a surplus in our budget for those particular items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, or did you want to speak to the item, Councillor Dickinson? No, thanks. Did you like your right of reply?
Yeah, I understand Councillor Murray's concerns, and with reference to some of those issues, I believe next year's mid-year review will cover a lot of those. Mid-year review of the budget will cover a lot of those issues, and I think that's the place where we should be looking at it. This is a budget which we've budgeted on for over the last 3 or 4 months, and I understand issues do come up at last minute, but I think it's allowing us to be able to look after some of our members of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Okay, councillors, we'll now put the amendment as proposed by Councillor Rayburn, which would see dot point 1 being amended to have $50,000 be allocated to Southern Aurora to complete their platform for the Museum of the Carriage, and $30,000 to be used to cover unexpected expenses made in the minor adjustments that have been made to the documents released for public review and comment. Councillors, I'll put that motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour and against? And I declare that lost. Thank you, councillors. Okay, councillors, we now have, so now that those last two motions are lost, we're back to the substantive motion, which is the recommendation as printed on pages 21 through to 25 of the agenda, with the amendment of $80,000 to be included in dot point 1, reflecting the correction to the Pitch My Projects initiative, plus the amendment as was carried by council earlier relating to dot point 8 as was moved by Councillor Murray. So, councillors, we're back to the original motion plus one amendment. Well, two if you include the 80,000. That amendment was an officer amendment, though. So we're back to that original motion. So, Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, we've heard some really good suggestions. We've read about them. We've talked about them for a few months, and it's really been good to see how the residents have contributed their ideas and their suggestions, and it's something probably a bit of a first for this Shire, and it might be something that other Shires take up in the future. And I would encourage residents, if your project didn't get up this time, there's no reason for you not to have another crack at it at a later date. Yeah, there were a few that did miss out, but it's not the end of the road for them. This budget, we've confined the rate increase to 3%, which is 0.5% under the state government cap, which is a welcome relief when considering the difficult times that we are going through. So I commend this motion to be voted in favour of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd also like to thank the community for their input and for your submissions through Pitch My Project and through the budget submissions. Trust me, the councillors have considered your submissions throughout this budget process. And so, unfortunately, things are tough, as everybody knows. And I think this budget is a reflection of the times. The inflation is high and we are dealing with one natural disaster after another. Which means our roads, our drainage infrastructure, our bridges and facilities are all taking a hit. Majority of the capital works projects in the budget majority of the capital works budget in this budget have essentially been put into maintenance and renewal to ensure that we can protect the assets that we do have and we know that the community values. We are keen not to leave a legacy for future councils that is unsustainable. In saying this, we're committed to improving tracks and trails and developing an active transport strategy to create a low carbon Shire and one that is less dependent on cars. We're committed to the next stages of the streetscapes to improve livability and vibrancy. And there are also other projects that, as I mentioned, a really renewal and maintenance of some bridges and roads. So, sorry about that. We, as Councillor Dickinson mentioned, we had to go with a 3% rate increase just to ensure that we could cover the costs of the demands of the Shire. The rate cap was actually 3.5%, but we hope that this was a fair meeting place for ratepayers and that they would understand the significant costs and challenges that we are facing. I would also like to thank officers for their incredibly hard work on the budget papers. And as the budget stands, I would like to commend it to fellow councillors and that they support it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo some of those comments that Councillor Hayes-Burke has mentioned. I think this is a responsible budget, and I think as a Shire we pride ourselves on responsible financial management, and I think this is exactly what this is. We're asking for a 3% increase, and below the 3.5 that the government has laid out. We are delivering services, core services to the community and maintaining those. We are also looking at our infrastructure and catering for our infrastructure needs in the future and those demands that are on the horizon, which I have talked about earlier. I'd like to also echo our thanks to the community for their budget submissions. We weren't able to satisfy those other than the Pitch My Project applications, some of those, but I do echo comments before about it's not the end of the road, and people can apply in other community grant streams further down the track. And I would like to remind the community that we are initiating $13 million worth of new capital works in this budget. So there is a lot of activity being undertaken by this Shire to cope with our demands at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillors? Yes, Councillor Rayburn.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to also congratulate the community, the officers and council, always, for this budget. We've had a lot of councils throughout the state going on about the state having this rate cap of 3.5. and how it's making it very hard for them to survive and become sustainable. Here we are, a small rural council rising at 3%. We can't do everything for our community, but we're doing the main things which we believe are the right things, and I believe that's the best way to go forward, and I really commend this budget to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Dickinson, would you like your right to reply? Are you happy?
No, I think everyone said it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Okay, councillors, I will now put the motion to the vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we now move to page 39 of the agenda. Item 7.3.1, application for event funding, Euroa Show and Shine Incorporated, Australian National Show and Shine. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council has received an application from the Euroa Show and Shine for event grant funding to support the delivery of the Australian National Show and Shine event, which this year will be held on the 1st of October 2023. The application request was for $5,000 to help support the event through the cost of traffic management and also event insurance. This event is well known on the Euroa map. It's an annual event and it's a car and bike display attracting thousands of visitors local to the event and the region each year. There is a recommendation on page 39 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer? Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question of, we have a long history of supporting, I believe, the Euroa Show and Shine. Can you detail that history?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Murray, and through you, Mayor Binks. Yes, we have. The Show and Shine's been going for about 20 years. Council's support to that in terms of a financial contribution has fluctuated over the years. Certainly last year we provided financial support of $3,000 from memory to the committee. The committee to run the event. The committee have had a change in governance and leadership this year, and the new committee are looking forward to delivering the event.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Haysbert.
Can I please move the motion on page 39 of the agenda?
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Haysbert?
Just to say, yeah, I know that this is a really important event for those near and far, and council's always been a big supporter of the Show and Shine, and this year we're able to honour the $5,000 that's been requested because we've increased our events budget. So I mean, I hope that the committee is happy with that, and yeah, I hope it's a good event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the item? No? Any other councillor like to speak to the item? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I asked the question earlier because I think we have been involved with the Show and Shine and shown our support of the Show and Shine over many years, and I'm pleased to continue to show our support for this sort of very large social, community, financial and developmental opportunity in our region. It is a waste-wise event, and I look forward to the management of waste during this particular event and to see how they go. And I'm happy to recommend the $5,000 for the event on October the 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Okay, is there any other further councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour and against, and declare that carried? Thank you, councillors. I now move to page 44 of the agenda, item 7.4.1, tender for contract number 22-23-82, Nagambie Streetscape Detail Design. Chief Executive Officer Salomon, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Council developed the Nagambie Streetscape Master Plan in collaboration with Go Nagambie and the Nagambie community. The master plan was adopted by Council with an allocated budget of $280,000 for Stage 1 works from the 2022-23 Streetscape budget. The Nagambie Streetscape Master Plan has identified works to be undertaken in 4 stages. As High Street Nagambie is a declared arterial road on the Department of Transport network, Department of Transport and Planning network, it is mandatory to receive consent and approvals for all engineering plans prior to execution of any construction activity on this road. This tender is for preparing the detailed engineering designs, which includes accurate engineering estimates and drawings for stages 1, 2 and 3 of the design. It will ensure the constructability of the work specified in the master plan as per the engineering standards, and proper engineering estimates will allow Council to make future decisions on funding of the subsequent stages. Following an open public tender process, this report seeks Council endorsement to award the tender to Chris Smith and Associates Proprietary Limited of Shepparton. And there is a motion, councillors, on page 45 of tonight's agenda for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the CEO on this item? Councillor Haysberg.
I just wanted to ask the CEO, thanks. So this isn't necessarily a requirement for other streetscapes upgrades. Could you just clarify why we have to go through this process, please, for this particular one? Because it's obviously quite an added cost.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Haysberg, and through you, Mayor. The reason for this engineering design work is because it's specifically on an arterial road by the Department of Transport and Planning, and they need to sign off on any works, and to sign off on those works they need to have the detailed engineering drawings. So if there are local roads such as Binney Street in Euroa, it's not required, but for any streetscape works and that are on arterial roads that are Department of Transport and Planning, we will need to go through this process. So there will be other streetscape designs that will need to have this engineering design undertaken. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO Solomon. Are there any further questions or clarification? No, if not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as stated on page 45.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you again, Mayor. Well, it's a long time coming. I can remember the CEO saying to me on the first day that I was on council, the wheels turn slowly in local government. How right she was. I'm nearly up 3 years, and we've got to this stage, and there's just one obstacle after another. And even the residents knocked back the first plan. Well, they seem to be overwhelmingly in favour of the second plan. So now we've got to go through the architects and the consultation and all that. And I just read on the weekend just how much consultations are costing the Melbourne City Council. The dollars are huge in consultation alone. Or was it the state government? Actually, I think it was the state government, not the Melbourne City Council. So, yeah, unfortunately, we've got to toe the line. We've got to pay these big dollars and get the ticks in the boxes and slave away. So, yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I endorse, thank you, Mayor. I endorse Councillor Dickinson's comments there, because it does take ages to get things through local government. And when you're dealing with government instrumentalities, it can take even longer. But this is a requirement under the Road Act that anything owned by or managed by Vic Roads, if you want to do any alterations on it, you have to get their okay, and that just costs money. And it's going to happen to another town in Strathbogie, which is going to cause a bit of angst to them, but we'll work through that in the future. Oh, 2 towns, actually. 2 towns.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. As we now move to page 51 of the agenda, and as I have declared a conflict of interest in the matter, I will hand the chair to Deputy Mayor Murray, and I'll leave the room.
Very good, thank you. So can we note that the Mayor has left the chamber at 7 o'clock, I think we can call it. Thank you. So we're dealing with item 7.5.1, which is a request to attend the Global Leadership Foundation ACARA ND ACARA Past, Present and Future Leadership Experience in South Australia by the Mayor, Councillor Laura Binks. Executive Manager Favaloro, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Murray. So our Mayor, Councillor Laura Binks, has expressed interest in attending the Global Leadership Foundation's Leadership Experience, which is in July this year. The experience aims to help leaders build self-awareness, emotional health and understanding of their leadership role. So the Mayor has expended $324 of the $1,500 she's allocated training allowance in 23-24. So this leaves a balance of $1,176. The registration fee for this course is $1,000. This excludes accommodation and meals. So the Mayor would provide receipts of an additional expenses upon completion of the course to the balance of $176. So under the council expenses policy, a council resolution is required for the approval of any interstate travel. So there's a recommendation for you on page 51 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you very much, Executive Manager. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer? Councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And through you, Deputy Mayor, I'd like to move that the recommendation as printed on page 51 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Mover, would you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's great that our Mayor and fellow councillor just loves to go to training, because it just builds her ability to be a better person and a better Mayor and a better communicator. And as we've just passed in our budget, we're asking the Mayor to be doing more advocacy work for us in the 23-24 budget, and this is just part of the training, the learning, and gives her a greater way of communicating, way of presenting herself. But also, as part of this, it's about how to learn how to accept other people's ways and criticisms and that, and learn your own self-help to help yourself when things get very hard and tight. So I think it's a great idea and it's a great asset for her.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask the seconder if they wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm always impressed with the Mayor's ability to seek out these courses and find sort of inspiring and relevant courses, and so I commend her for doing that, and I'm sure that she'll bring back some learnings that will benefit us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any councillor wish to speak against the motion? All right. Well, I might move now for the to put the motion. So all those councillors in favour? All those councillors against? I declare the motion carried. Could you invite the Mayor back? Thank you, Executive Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Murray, for sharing whilst I had a conflict. Councillors, we now move to page 60 of our agenda, item 7.6.1. Oh, sorry, 50. Oh, okay, sorry, I missed. Yep. There we go. Sorry. My pages have been stapled back to front. We'll now move to page 57 of the agenda, item 7.5.2, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Update S11. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Following recent appointments to vacant positions, several changes are required to be made to the S11 Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation. The Local Government Act 1989 is still alive in this case in relation to, yes, it is, in relation to the appointment of authorised officers, not yet in the transition yet to the 2020 Act. This instrument gives officers the ability to enforce legislation and is essential to ensuring any enforcement action is undertaken on behalf of council in a legal and robust manner. The instrument also appoints officers to key roles and positions, including the Municipal Building Surveyor, Municipal Emergency Management Officer, and the appointment of the Councillor Conduct Officer. Those changes have been made, councillors, and they are updated and also presented to you on page 57 of the report for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification of the Director relating to this item? Yes, Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, why do we have this?
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn, for your question, and through you, Mayor Binks. This allows relevant officers to do their job. So to be delegated by council for certain powers under certain legislation to be able to do their job and make operational decisions to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of the council.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Please move the motion on page 57 of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke?
Just to say I'm always so amazed by the copious amounts of legislation that are relevant to these instruments, and we're lucky that we have the expertise of people to take over acting roles in this case. So
thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. The reason why I am seconding this is because if I didn't second this and we didn't move this, we'd be here every day, every minute of the year doing stuff. This is one of the most vital things that councillors do endorse, because it takes so much pressure off councillors, and I know it puts it back onto staff, but it makes the operation and the running of council so much easier for everybody. So that's the reason.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. So we now move to page 60, right, of the agenda, and item 7.6.1, council commitment to good governance. CEO Salomon, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Following a discussion with the Mayor, Councillor Laura Binks, this report specifically seeks Council's endorsement for a letter to respond to the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Melissa Horne MP, and in response to the appointment of Mr Peter Stevenson as the municipal appointment to Strathbogie Shire. This letter details, amongst other considerations, what actions councillors will collectively undertake in response to the first Monitor's report to provide the highest standard of governance for their community. The letter also details the work currently underway with Mr Andrew Douglas from JWC Lawyers to deliver a statement of intent or similar that will guide and direct behaviour between councillors as a group and councillors and council staff. Once signed by all councillors and delivered to the Municipal Monitor, Council will receive a further report to formally endorse that signed statement of intent or similar at an extraordinary council meeting on July 25th, 2023 at 2 p.m. This report also highlights the work of the Mayor that she is being undertaken with councillors to develop their own set of KPIs and associated professional development plan to ensure that councillors are meeting the requirements as required under the Local Government Act 2020 and fulfilling their duties accordingly. There is a motion, councillors, on page 60 and 61 of tonight's agenda for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer relating to this item? Or me, as I drafted the letter? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to recommend the motion. No, I'd like to move a motion which is recommended on page 60 to be endorsed by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, this is something which has been going on for a long time within our council, and hopefully we will be getting near the end of it, working together as one, helping each other out as one. And I believe our previous municipal monitor was great help to us, and I believe the new municipal monitor is helping us even further. And Andrew Douglas, I believe, is assisting us in working for tomorrow, so that we are working together as one.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to say a couple of things. This is a recommitment to good governance, and I think that is an issue that obviously that we need to concentrate on and to be mindful of. I'm happy to endorse this letter, which the Mayor has written. I think it's a terrific letter in response to some of the problems that we've experienced. I think the recommitment to the 10-point plan is important, and I think we all are very mindful of that. I think we need to work collaboratively and develop that culture there to be of respect, trust, and open communication. And I think we're well on the way of doing that. And I think I've seen that over the last a month or two or three. Being respectful to each other, I think that's also important, and that's talked about. I think you can see that in the council chamber and in the way we relate to each other, and there's certainly a big improvement in that area, I think, over a period of time too. And I think working together and focusing on our council plan is something that I think we've been pretty focused on over the last few months. So I recommend the letter to you and our commitment to you, and I would like to see all the councillors support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Haysbert?
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the initiative on this. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity that's been given to me by the community to be a councillor and to be on council, and I would like to continue. And I feel like this is a commitment to continuing good governance, and I'm keen to see these commitments take place. And I would like to commend this to my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put a motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Right, skipping a page again. Okay, so that is the last item on the agenda tonight. So the next monthly meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council is scheduled to be held on Tuesday, the 18th of July, 2023 at the Nagambie Lakes Regatta Centre, commencing at 6 p.m. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:16 p.m. Thank you and good night.